What's up, YouTube fam? It's hot as fuck. I'm out here sweating like a dog, y'all. It's like 100 degrees out here today. And yes, I'm going on my walk, man. Fuck it. Before we get into this next topic, it's 2 points that I meant to make on my last video, about the public education system, the school system, whatever, is that it's two things that that also bothers me that most people should think about. We teach our kids one of the number one rule: don't talk to strangers. Don't ever get in a car with strangers. But it's funny that, well, it's not really funny, it's actually sad, what they have the school bus system, where, we send our kids on this big yellow bus, and the bus driver, we don't know who this bus driver is. We don't know who these people are, and with all the child trafficking shit going on, it's just very strange that we teach our kids not to get in cars with strangers, but we literally send our kids systematically to hop on a certain vehicle with a stranger to take them to a place. It just really baffles me. The other point I meant to make on my last video that I forgot to make was phys ed. We talked about how they cut the recess time short, for obvious reasons. And then phys ed. Most of my gym teachers were old and overweight. And we really didn't learn much in physical education. They didn't really teach the boys to be strong. They didn't teach the women to be fit. They didn't. It was a little bullshit, little 20, 30-minute class, and we ran laps a little bit. We did a few jumping jacks. And sometimes we played with a damn parachute and shit like that. But nobody really learned any actual physical education, which is what phys ed stands for. So that's just something I also wanted to point out. Now, this video is about the 40-hour work week. How we're all also slaves. While our children are being indoctrinated at school, we're out here on the cotton fields, so to speak, still on the plantation working. It's not a black or white thing. This is modern day slavery. So back in the day, there wasn't always a 40-hour work week. For those that don't know, the average work time is, we say 9 to 5, but most people don't really work 9 to 5. You got a first shift, second shift, third shift. Back in the day, there was no first, second, and third shift. You worked however long you had to work. Whoever got the most work done is the one that got paid the most. Like, for example, let's say you worked at McDonald's, which I don't even know if they had McDonald's before the 40-hour work week time. I don't know. Well, no, they didn't. McDonald's didn't come to about late 1940s. 40-hour work week started within around 1940. We're going to get to that here in a minute. Most people, they work about 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, which equals to 40 hours. Anything over that would be considered overtime. And you should be getting paid. Most companies pay you time and a half, meaning your regulars, hourly salary, your regular hourly pay. I want to say hourly salary, but then you get an extra half, whatever half of your hourly rate is, you will get that plus a half of. So that's where the whole 40-hour work week thing really comes from. So back in the days, like, for example, let's say you worked at McDonald's. Whoever flipped the most burgers, whoever cut the most potatoes and made the most fries. Yes, they used to actually cut potatoes back then. Whoever made the most food and cleaned up and did the most work there would get paid the most. They had an hourly pay, but it was mainly off of how much work you put in. How much money did you bring into the company that you work for? Nowadays, it's not like that. It's how many hours you worked. And give a fuck how hard you work. You can work harder than the next guy while the next guy's just sitting on his phone all day. Both of y'all will get paid the same amount depending on how long you actually worked. Not about how much work you actually did, but how long you were on the clock. So this is how they enslave us now. Why did they start the 40-hour work week? They say it was because of the Great Depression to cut down the unemployment rate. That doesn't make any fucking sense, because if there's a Great Depression, that means employers would have less money to pay employees. So to me, that's just a stupid bullshit reason. You know, of course, you know, that's Google's answer to everything. So, before, it was a man named Henry Ford. Okay, it's two names I really want y'all to pay attention to. So we have Henry Ford, which is the guy that pretty much owns, well, I mean, he's dead now, he don't own shit, but his family, you know, the Ford, his family name owns the Ford company. I don't know, maybe they sold it or whatever, but the founder of the Ford company, which is, you know, like the vehicle Ford, the Ford trucks, you know, the American car Ford, ran on certain engine oils. And that was the first major mainstream commercialized American car company where you actually had a dealership where you actually went to go buy a car. So, you know, he was a genius man, you know, of course. Henry Ford is what was his name. Now there's another guy. This man's important. Y'all really need to pay attention to this name, because these are the people who are responsible for how the world is the way it is. You know, it's not just some accident. It's not like these people were just genius businessmen and they just became rich overnight one day by making smart moves. No, these people were scammers. They did a lot of cheating and stealing to get to where they were. This man named John D. Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller. That's his name. What he was a big time oil owning guy. He was the first real oil company person, you know, so to speak. What he did was, there was other small little oil businesses, people that owned certain oil companies. This was the first man to actually buy out those companies. What he would do is he would sit these people down and he would negotiate a deal that they couldn't refuse for whatever reason. Where he get the money from, I don't know. You know, it's a lot of mystery behind this guy. But one thing that I know he did do, which was very genius. I mean, you know, like I said, whether he was good or bad, that's pretty much really up for the person to decide. You know what I mean? You know, like in order to gain any type of power or dominance, sometimes you got to do cutthroat shit. So I'm not here to really judge the man's morals. I'm not here to say John D. Rockefeller was an evil man. I'm just here to say he couldn't have been that good either. But what he did was he would buy out these small little oil companies and he would offer them a certain price. And they would make the deal, basically monopolizing over the world, and, you know, especially throughout the country in the USA, to where it really ended up with him owning all the oil. So since he owned all the oil, and Mr. Henry Ford was a guy who was doing all this, you know, all this motor oil shit and building all these cars and selling all these cars and pretty much dominating the whole car industry, you know, one of the first real major corporate cars and stuff. Who was going to run the machines. So them two, they had a very good plan on, you know, let's get these people to work. Let's get these people to actually go to a certain place, you know, to our little factories, and they can help run our oil. They can help build our motors and build our cars. So the oil companies that John D. Rockefeller was buying out was pretty much working with Henry Ford, which is the car companies, because, you know, you need oil to run the cars. So it was very genius how they got us all to start working. That's why that's where the Industrial Revolution really started. The industrial, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, you know, where people are really working, and the oil companies are the biggest employers in the world at that time, especially in the country of the USA. So while all these grown-ups, while all the adults are at work running these damn oil machines and, you know, keeping these billionaires rich, who was going to watch the kids? Because at that time, even women had to start working a little bit. So that's when they started to, you know, that's when the whole school thing came in. So this is kind of somewhat in connection with the whole school system, because the school system started because people had to work. Now, John D. Rockefeller died around 1937, 1938. I can't remember the exact date. But they started the whole 40-hour work week shortly after that in order to keep people working a certain amount. That's when they had first, second, and third shifts. So now instead of you just working all day and one person making all the money from doing all the work, they regulated how rich we can get. They made it to where we can only make a certain amount of money because we're only getting paid by the hour and we're only allowed to work certain hours. So think about this. And anybody who wants to get paid more will have to work more hours. Some companies allow overtime, some don't. A lot of companies, especially nowadays, they have a limit on how many hours you can actually work. So you see how it is. It's not like you can just get rich. Like you could just work 1,000 hours. You could just work 24/7 and then just, you know, save a bunch of money and get rich. Nah, they made it to where they made it hard for the average working class person to actually get rich. So that's how it got to where it is, y'all. This is how the world came to be. You know, these people show you how we got to where we have gotten. And, you know, it's really a lot to it, man. There's so many details that I'm leaving out because it's so much really to unpack. I don't want to overwhelm people with all this information. But just know John D. Rockefeller and Mr. Henry Ford had a lot to do with why the world is the way it is. It's why our Mr. Horace Mann was another guy. That's the guy that was really in charge of the whole school system. But like I said, you know, that's on my last videos. Y'all can check that one out. It was cut in two because, you know, my camera turned off in the middle of the first one. But, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, y'all. John D. Rockefeller is the guy that owns all the oil, or he used to. You know, his family is probably one of the richest families in America. And then Henry Ford was one of the first real car companies. That's when they started the 40-hour work week. That's where now they got us all kind of slaving for these little jobs and stuff. In order to really get rich and actually capitalize in a world of capitalism, you have to own some type of business. You have to either buy out another company and sell it for double, triple, quadruple, or you have to exploit other people. And it's sad to say that, you know. It's really hard to become wealthy in this country because they have it rigged. They have it rigged against us where we're very limited. We only have a certain amount of time. You know, there's a certain amount of time that you got to sleep, a certain amount of time you got to eat, a certain time you got to spend time with your kids, things like that. But we all got to make money. So most people, I say like the average person in America, little dude on a skateboard. The average man and woman here in America, we spend at least on average 40 to 60 hours at a job that we absolutely hate. And y'all, I believe in everybody. Find a passion, find a hobby, find something that you like to do. Find a product that you can sell that you know people will buy. And, you know, you will find wealth one day. So, until then, y'all, I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.